Hey everybody, it's Friday. Welcome to Tabletakes presented by Gen Con. My name's Christian. I'm joined as always by Bonsai, Emma, and Derek, and we are here to talk about games. Everybody else ready here to talk about games too?
I am so ready.
Okay.
I'm stoked. Yeah.
All right, we've got a big agenda to get through today, so we are going to start things off going hot. I want to hear about the 2020 Origins changes, and Derek's going to tell us all about it.
So they just announced a bunch of changes to the Origins Awards, and if anybody's not familiar, the Origins Awards are kind of one of the big industry award ceremonies. The actual award ceremony itself at Origins is always really a big deal.
And Origins is a convention.
Origins is a convention usually in June in Columbus, Ohio. At least it's been the past decade or two.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be there for the foreseeable future too.
They have room.
They've got some room to grow. So it's kind of like the early summer convention, and they have the Origins Awards.
It's one of those cons that for me always kind of like, oh, convention season is here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Convention season has begun. It's also the convention that industry folks love to go to because they have a chance to connect with each other and talk with each other.
Without having to deal with those pesky fans.
Well, spend time together, but like before the complete chaos of the convention season is kind of upon them. And before maybe all the releases have come out, things like that.
Yep.
It's kind of like opening day for the industry people.
Sure.
Like in
We
baseball.
also have like a really cool D&D setup there too.
Oh yeah, there's groups that go there from all over the country that get together once a year to play in a game that they only play once a year. I mean, it's
Every convention has like that core solid group that have just been there forever, and Origins certainly has its share of that.
Yeah.
But the important news right now is that the Origins Awards are changing. They have a lot of different categories in them, but they're making some adjustments. Noteworthy is that they're bringing the historical game and historical miniatures game categories back. And pre-show, we had a lot of kind of a back and forth on this.
Yes, a lot of feels.
First of
we had
all,
a lot
do
of
they
feels.
still make historical miniatures games new? Or are they
Yes.
only just rehashes of stuff that came out 40 years ago?
It depends on your perspective, because I do know that there's a fair amount of historical miniatures games that come out without their own miniatures line. Oftentimes because they presume that there's enough.
Yeah, the little playbooks that they used to come out with, and you have to
there's
supply your own
there's
little
still tons
dudes.
of that. Like
Yeah,
I
they
think
presume
bolt action.
that you'll just have the ones with the pikes and the ones with the muskets, and that you'll just have
I
one
was
of
just
each.
thinking World War II, but yeah,
Yeah.
there are other historical miniatures games too. That's right.
Turns out there were different parts of history other than just World War II.
And
You heard
just
it
the
here
World
first, folks, on
Wars.
Tabletakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so both those categories are coming back,
Yes.
which is interesting to me because it doesn't seem like there are enough new prominent releases for either category to either have both categories or to have them separate from their core categories. It seems to me that like a historical games very broad category may have made sense, maybe, but again, when you have a category for an award ceremony, you figure that you would want, if you're going to pick, let's say, five nominees to vote on, you'd want
More than 5?
you'd want like 30-ish releases to kind of cull from.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I don't know if there are that many coming out every year. And then even further, this was the thing that we were kind of contentious on before show is I don't feel that a historical board game is so inherently or fundamentally different from board games that it's useful to separate it. Like by the same token, if Origins feels that historical games aren't getting the attention they deserve, making a category is helpful.
Yeah.
But still, like, are there enough to merit that?
Well, I've got kind of a hot take on it,
Go ahead.
but I'll save it.
Okay,
You got
well,
something
what
to say.
I was going to say is having worked at a board game store and seeing a lot, and even going to conventions. Okay, quick sidebar. The first time I went to Gen Con, I went through the back and I got into the big room with everyone playing games, and I thought that was Gen Con. So I didn't even realize, because I hadn't really done a lot of research before, and then I got to the exhibit hall, I'm like, oh wait, this is more of what I'm used to. But I got in there and I just saw the people with a table that was like 200 feet long and terrain, and they had people just pouring over these intricately placed minis for a historical board game.
Yep.
There are people that they don't even really think of themselves as gamers. They don't think of them as games, really. Like, this is their hobby. There are people who go into a board game store and they beeline for the GMT section. Like, they would never even consider playing something other than those.
Sure, but there are people who only play Magic. There are people who only play D&D. There are people who they don't consider themselves gamers who do both of those things. Do we need a best Magic category? Do we need a best D&D category? Like, I mean, like, to me, the selection of categories is important because it makes a statement about the health of that segment and the prominence of that segment, and how that segment is inherently different from other games.
Well, I would say the types of people who would say like, oh, I want to have this game rewarded and I want to learn what are the best new games in this category are more traditional to the Origins as a place and as a show. Like, it's more focused on board games. And if it was a show that was like, this is the trading card game show, it might make more sense for something like the best Magic
But
category.
the Origins Awards are supposed to be industry-wide. And they do have trading card categories in there. They have RPG categories. And like, it's a weird thing too, because like, you know, at Gen Con, I'll talk to one group who will tell me like, oh, Gen Con's just an RPG show. And then I'll talk to another group and they'll be like, oh, Gen Con's just a board game show. And I am positive that Origins gets the exact same feedback, basically. In that a lot of times people will presume that whatever show they're at, when they're having frustrations with it, is actually serving this other category that they're not a part of, and like there's a weird thing there.
Yeah, I do like, people do say that they are only Magic players, are only role-playing gamers. I think there's a little more flexibility there, and as someone who like likes to play a lot of games and likes to get people into a lot of games, I think it's a better attitude. Don't want to put too much judgment on it, but I've noticed people in those groups like, hey, like, bring out a board game. Like, I'm designing board games. Here's the thing I've done. There seems to be a little more flexibility in there. I don't think having this attitude that this is the only type of game I play is a good thing, but
no, it's not.
There seems to be less flexibility, or less fungibility between those and other categories.
So is that an argument for, like, if you don't think that that being like, I only play historical games is necessarily a good perspective to have, is that an argument for or against having its own category? See what I mean?
Yeah, well, for sales, you know, if there are people who are like, I want to find out the best in this, but like you said, are there even enough? Like, 3 of them come out, well, just buy one of each.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and throw my little bot penny in there.
Do it, yeah.
What I want to say is just that the category of historical games in general should be separated because it is based off something that has actually happened in real life, versus a lot of these are like, you know, fairies didn't actually exist and dragons and such, but these things have happened in life, and it does need a special like way to go in, because there are these games and settings that are like, hey, this is what happened during World War II, this has happened during Saigon, this has happened in Vietnam, and that's why I believe like you have to have that separation, so like it's not like, oh, this a real event that happened to my grandparents is judged in the same category as flying fairies.
But why?
Yeah, like,
I mean, everything that you said, 100% agree with, that historical games require, or I think all games, you know, benefit from an empathy of all the characters you have in them. But I think historical games have a little responsibility that there will be real people who are affected by the decisions you make and how you present the game.
Yes.
But how does having a different category help with that?
Well, I mean, it does separate, like, for example, there's some people that still believe that the atrocities that happened during World War II didn't actually happen. They're just stories that people make up. And if you put them in the same categories of fairy tales, of sci-fi, then it does lead to that belief. And then a lot of times these, like, honestly, historical miniature games seem like a smaller, cheaper way to do reenactments. Like, you know, people going out and doing
like
Civil
maybe,
War.
but so like I have a feeling that historical miniature game fans would react to that the same way that an RPG fan might react to D&D is a cheaper, easier way to do a weekend LARP. You get what I mean?
It is, though.
But it's not. But see, like, it's not. Those are very different games. I mean, I think that, like, I've not been a historical reenactor by any means, but I have a feeling that there's a lot that goes into that that's very different from historical miniatures or what people want at historical miniature games. I mean, I think the fact that we're debating probably shows how difficult it is to categorize these things, but
it's not.
You?
It's not.
You ready for your hot take?
Yeah,
No, this isn't even that. This is just based on what you said.
Yeah.
Movies, I think, are a great example.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got 8 pictures up for Best Picture every year. Now, maybe 3 of those are historical dramas. And maybe one is a Star Wars movie, and one's about dinosaurs, and the other is a Disney. Should those be in separate categories? They're all up for the same award. Why? I mean, these three are about history, and people really went through this. This guy never really turned into a frog. But they're together.
So
because they're the same thing. They're all movies.
Sure.
Yeah.
My perspective, I think, tends to be you want to have as few categories as you can. And this is kind of a general thing. Like, doesn't apply to every situation. You want to have as few categories as you can to make each category as impactful as you can, without the category being overwhelmed and you feel like you're excluding too many because you just don't have enough space for nominees. So the best time to separate a category and decide, like, hey, you know, we're going to have a historical drama and we're going to have a fantasy genre and a best picture, so that we have a, you know, best picture, best historical, best fantasy, is when we have so many of each that one category would end up us having to make really hard decisions about what movies we just don't recognize. And it doesn't seem like historical games have so many releases coming out that we're leaving them on the cutting room floor.
But what historical games get, and this is my hot take, what historical games get that regular games do not get is recognized by the education system, recognized by governments for the good work that they did promoting whatever that thing was. They get recognition outside of the gaming industry.
For sure.
So by creating those categories, you are moving outside of the games industry. You are saying, hey, look how legitimate board games are now. We are so big that we have gone outside what is just gaming, and we are venturing into history.
Well, so that's great. That's great. But two questions.
Yes.
Would it not be better than to have one category for both miniatures and not miniatures? Or would it be better to, instead of saying historical games, would it be better to say educational or informative or some other thing?
Nobody likes the word education.
And nobody likes education.
That's why I said something else, but like, would it be better to come up with a branding exercise that allows you to, like, you know, if you made a game about current events, is that a historical game?
Nope.
But that would be...
It will be in 10 years.
Yeah. But like, that to me suggests a flaw in categorization. That if the category,
I'm not saying the category
if eligibility
exist.
for the category changes over time,
because it's going to get attention outside of just Origins.
Sure, but like that could be very noble and useful.
And then,
but would it be better to have a different label?
And then to be labeled as something that is an educational game, honestly, deters a lot of people from playing it, and also slaps some kitty gloves on.
I also have a feeling that a lot of people who make those games would be like, no, this game isn't. Like, the point of this game is not education. You get educated by playing, but like,
But historical game designers, if they can get their own category, they don't have to be clumped in with the other game designers, and so they have a better chance of winning.
Sure.
Like I said before the show, my hot take is there is a champion on this team who said, like, hey, let's just do this because I think it's cool. And everyone was else like, yeah, if you're passionate about it, sure.
You haven't shut up about it in a year, let's do it.
I'm just saying, that's sometimes how these decisions are made.
Yeah.
It could boil down to...
And I'm guessing it was a very, very vocal member who decided that this is like, we know we have to have this. This is a completely different category than this other thing.
I mean, I'm really...
And they sounded exactly like that. That was the voice they used when they talked.
I would really love to know why the category was removed in the first place, and what the rationale was to bring it back, because what circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
Because again, like, it just seems like there's not enough coming out to merit its own category, or that maybe they should have been a combined category, or it seems weird.
Like
there are more board games coming out right now than ever before in history. If you can find a way to split those categories up, might as well do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Exactly. I think also, I've been noticing in the past few months, there has been a trend of historical RPGs that have been coming out.
Which is neither of these categories.
Yeah.
But
historical games?
Historical games would not be.
Well, it's true. Like,
RPGs?
technically, but like,
Yeah, no.
That's what.
That's what the G in RPG is for.
Yes, but I think that unless they're changing the nature of that category, I'm pretty sure historically it was not historical games, like historical RPGs. I have a feeling that's probably historical
in my
board games.
mentality, when this was announced, I was like, okay, historical games, that's historical RPGs.
If that's the approach they'll take, that'll be really interesting.
See, my hot take from reading this was, wow, this matters to 12 people.
Yep. Well, we've spent a bunch of time on that. So other changes that I think we will be a little more unified on is the addition of a whole new category of digital adaptation of a physical game.
That's a category that needs to be there.
That needed to be there.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think the hardest thing about that is just judging them, because honestly, like, I've seen a lot of these and played a lot of them, and I've been very impressed by the kinds of things that people.
And
come
what's the
with.
criteria that you base it on? Like, how close to the real board game is the port? How like there's so many ways you can judge that.
Well, I think that to that point, the really interesting thing here is, are you judging how good the digital adaptation is, whether or not it's close to the original, but like how good of an adaptation it is
by itself,
or are you judging how good the game is and it happens to be digital? You get what I mean?
Well,
So let's say
like our mellow.
I think the first one is the only one that makes sense.
No, but if
there are
maybe, but then would you, if you had a really good port of a not super great physical game, but the digital version is just better than
Just for some reason fun to play, whereas the board game version wasn't.
Carcassonne. Remember when I brought that in?
It was a board game, and then it became a digital game, and that one was really fun for me. I enjoy For the King.
Sure.
Well, yeah, because I think some of them, like I
played that
said, they're
I've
doing
downloaded it
so
the other
well with just the basics of moving the game. Like they're getting the art assets in, that they're getting good UI, good UX in those. I think it almost needs a little bit something more to stand out from the competition.
Sure.
So when I was playing the Galaxy Trucker mobile game over and over and over again, there was a little bit of flavor. It had characters in it, a lot of stuff that wasn't in the original game. So I think that it will have to go above and beyond.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how the nominees and how that develops over time.
I wonder also, to throw a little wrench in there, there is a lot of momentum to do augmented reality games though too. So does that go into the digital category?
Well, I think this is digital adaptation of a physical game. So I think the category is specific for something. Again, we're a little speculatory here.
I know,
but
but
I think from the title, it seems to be something that originally was a physical game that then got a digital adaptation.
Okay.
So AR could exist in some level,
Yeah.
but I have a feeling this is much more for, this is the Steam or iPad or smartphone or console version of a tabletop classic.
I don't know, because there are some games that did go straight to digital, like Armello.
Yep.
Great game.
Those would not be eligible for this category based on its title.
There.
I mean, because I think
They've won plenty of
But if
awards.
they changed 3 words in the title, it absolutely would be.
but then, how do you specify a category that is well, it's digital games, the best digital game that is basically totally a board game, if you know what I mean, dude. Because if you have Slay the Spire or a lot of those.
Hearthstone.
Well, Hearthstone I think is mostly pretty clearly a thing. There's some digital elements to it that would be difficult to replicate on the tabletop, but there's definitely some games that really meld tabletop games, like a board, cards, things with dice that we really associate
Dicey
with.
Dungeon?
Yeah, but also have first-person shooter elements or just more action elements that you can't simulate on the table.
Yeah.
How do you, because that's very much a spectrum, how do you have a clear definition?
Well, then does Tabletop Simulator win everything?
It could if they design it well.
I'm going to suspect no, because I think that they would probably rule that Tabletop Simulator recreation of a physical game is not a game in itself.
Yeah.
Unless it's a release into and of itself, yeah.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
All right.
I have a feeling that's probably how they'll rule it.
Yeah, and it does say adaptation, so it's not port. Adaptation implies that there is
Some thought
something.
process, and you change
Yeah,
tweak
but
a little bit.
any port of a board game to a digital game is automatically an adaptation.
I have a feeling that the difference between adaptation and port is just, are you being derisive or not?
Well, no, if it's a
That's
port,
fair.
you're taking it from one digital format to another digital format. If it's an adaptation, you're taking it from a non-digital format to a digital format.
So those are the changes to categories.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll be really interesting to see what comes out. Maybe what we should actually do, an exercise for us, is when the nominees for those categories come out, if we look to see what the 2020 historical game and historical miniatures game categories are, or nominees are, that might let us know there's this whole untapped market that we're just not aware of, in which case this is a fantastic thing to do with these categories, is to help inform the broader gaming community of this niche that they're not aware of.
I'm excited to see the things that are coming out in here.
So voting is going to be done by app now.
Yep.
As opposed to walking up to the little thing and writing in the book.
Yep.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it sounds like they're taking the Origins kind of showcase out of the exhibit hall. It basically used to have a booth like an exhibitor. It was kind of in the corner of the exhibit hall. And it sounds like they're getting rid of that. And they're taking that showcase where you could kind of flip through and look at the books and putting that in the middle of the main hallway which is great because it's going to be much more traffic past that space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like they're doing like display cases or some sort of kind of signage display thing. I'm not exactly sure.
Maybe they just lay down at a table and post armed guards.
Maybe. I mean, that
Little
would go with
ropes around
historical
it,
if we give them
velvet rope.
halberds and everything.
Yes.
They
Have a
really want
QR
to lean
code.
into the theme this year.
Yeah.
Don't touch, sir.
But so they're doing that, and then I guess the voting, instead of being like a physical ballot that's in that booth, is going to be app-based, which is interesting.
That sounds really hard to abuse.
Yep.
We'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
Because if they tie it to you can't vote unless you have purchased a badge, it would probably alleviate a lot
Well,
of
that
abuse.
would. That would be a smart way
We'll
of
see.
doing
Yeah.
it. But there's always.
I can see trolls
backdoors.
just buying extra smartphones so they can download the app.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have to buy a badge to be able to vote, then
And it's only.
and if a
each
troll
badge is
needs to buy a bunch more badges, then
to one email
I guess good
address.
for Origins.
I really
Yeah.
hope it's not tied to just an email address because that would be abused to nobody's end.
We'll
Yeah.
see. I think the other change, a couple other changes they mentioned is that there's one jury for all the categories now to determine what the final nominees are going
That's
to
a
be.
big change.
It is. It's a very big change because they used to have one per category, and I'm kind of on the fence about that. Like I'm 50-50 that like having one jury does make the nominees a little more consistent, makes it a little more cohesive.
Yes.
But I also feel like you lose a little bit of the expertise. So I almost kind of feel like a mix of the two may have been best.
And I just feel straight up like too many cooks in the kitchen is a problem, and that's something that the Origin Awards has suffered from in the past.
Sure.
And that's just a
If this-
lot of games for them to play, right? Like
Yeah.
if
That's
every
kinda
member
what I
has to
mean.
play every game.
So what you think?
So pay
that
'em.
a consultant?
Well, pay them, yes.
Yeah, pay them.
Pay them. Yeah.
Pay them to do their jobs, and then they'll do them. And
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, it could be just like you could have a rotation of one judge be a consultant.
And there's lots of ways to do it. Like,
Yeah.
like my thought is if you have a core of jury, like a core central jury that touches every category.
Yes.
But then each category has like an advisory jury that is only consulting on that
if
one.
that advisory jury is just one person, that would be fine.
Yeah. Because if it's too many, like it's like a pyramid scheme at that.
Well, and I mean, like I think
And yeah, that's
there are ways to figure out how to do it. Like, if there weren't, we wouldn't have quite as many board games on our shelves. There are simple and complicated. There's lots of trade-offs either way. It just I don't know. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah. Excited
find
to
out.
keep tabs on it.
As they
Let's
say,
see.
poop rolls downhill unless you're on a mesa.
And I believe on that topic of poop. Oh, there is one more change to the Origins Awards. This past year,
Everyone is required to
they
defecate.
had they changed the format so that not all attendees could go. Like I think they charged a fee to attend, and you got some food, and they tried to make it like
for the party, yes.
yeah.
I
They
remember
tried
that.
to make
It's
the
weird.
ceremony itself like a really like fine dining awards
Exclusive.
experience kind of thing.
Oh.
For gamers, huh?
Which yeah.
I bet that worked out really well.
So in completely unrelated news. They are preserving a small section of that, but opening a large portion of the room to the general audience.
To
Right.
the riffraff.
Yes.
They lit the riffraff in here.
You want me to wear a tie? I didn't even shower this week.
So
So
lots
you
of
can
changes.
watch the other people eat the food.
Lots of changes for the Origins Awards. I really hope that they help kind of elevate the prestige of the awards overall.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to see what will trickle out of these categories.
Cool.
Let's
Yes.
see what happens for the third most prestigious gaming awards in the country.
Speaking of new things that are coming,
this
Emma,
country.
you have nice, very, very magical.
This is what I'm
things.
waiting for. I want to
Yes.
hear about the news. Emma's got some news. Details
magical.
on new magic sets.
Ta-da.
I just want to see if we'll be able to make enough jokes to make you throw your agenda and walk away.
I'm guessing we can get a table flip out of her today, I think.
I mean, the
I
table
put
is...
shims
And,
under
it's
this
like,
table.
and Bonsai just fixed the table.
I
Just fix the table, guys. Gosh.
Throne of Eldraine, the new Magic set coming out this fall, now has a trailer.
Like a really awesome trailer.
It is
It
a
is-
really
it's a
awesome
really
trailer.
good
We all
trailer.
watched it.
Yes.
I tweeted it. I was like, and the Academy Award for Best Picture this year goes to retweet the trailer.
Yeah.
So-
World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think we're understanding where your World of Warcraft love comes from.
Well, I didn't even say it. I didn't even say this. They brought it up. World of Warcraft, also an amazing movie. This trailer, an amazing trailer.
Apparently, we're gonna have to all rewatch it again.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I'll point things out to you.
You know, what,
You'll-
maybe we all need to pick one movie that we all have to watch and then do a book report on.
That would sound so much fun.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I love that. We should totally do that. So yeah, I believe we posted a link to the trailer here.
Sure.
Are we? Yes?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
I
Definitely.
mean, they're on it.
Oh, man. Way to go, guys.
We're on it.
There's nobody back there, by the way.
It's just us
Derek's controlling it all from the laptop.
with his brain.
I wish.
So yeah, don't watch the trailer yet
I don't.
because you should keep watching our show, obviously. But the trailer is, they've put so much in there. They've put so many Easter eggs in there. One of them being a golden Easter egg.
That's a goose.
Now,
Yeah,
if you
golden
if you do watch the trailer and you are watching it in a smaller window right now,
While watching us.
what does it remind you of? One word, if you can think of it. Send that
One
in chat. I'm not going to say the word.
5-letter word.
No.
Onion.
Fairy,
Onion.
fairy tale, Grimm's fairy tales. I feel like the aesthetic of it is definitely much more
Shrek.
like a Grimm's fairy tales than like it's not a Disney, you know. It's not, they're not into the lighthearted fanciful. They're taking a lot of the stuff.
What would you call it if a sheep were to get in a car accident? A Shrek.
Yeah. The thing that the big corollary between the two, other than the fact that the trailer looks exactly like the movie Shrek,
Just with less poop.
is that the original movie Shrek was about an evil warlord who was trying to collect up all the real estate to kick all the fantasy characters out, and Magic: The Gathering is really a game about real estate management. Kick the ogre out of your swamp. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, just because there's land.
And you run everything off of the land. Everything.
Fair. I can't argue with that.
Can you inform us more about Throne of Eldraine
Yes,
instead,
I
maybe?
oversimplified.
Yeah.
I do. I want to hear about the set.
Okay, it's Shrek. Fine.
Yes, victory.
Yes, if that's what you want, if you want it to be Shrek, if you see Shrek, then it can be Shrek.
But you don't
let's
see Shrek.
I see Shrek. I'm saying that there's a lot of other. I'm saying they've put their own very unique twist on this.
Yes.
And they've done. I think they've done a great job. Like we've had discussions and we've done a lot of Kickstarters that are based off of fairy tale material because it's public domain, right? So fairy tales is definitely a thing that's been very done. Disney has done it a lot, so it's risky, really, to try for Wizards of the Coast to take this as a theme. Like, what are they thinking? Obviously, people are going to make
I was wondering the same thing.
But I think that a lot of their inspiration right now is getting a broader audience.
Yes.
So for people
Younger
who have
players.
grown up
Younger
on Shrek,
players.
for fairy tales in general, for someone to look at a card and be like, oh, that's the blind, like the crows in the pie, or the blind rat or something. There's a lot in it. You can just look at the art and feel even more instantly connected to it than some of the more fantasy art.
I think they also wanted a humorous beat after like War of the Sparks, kind of
Yes.
very serious storyline.
Very, very serious.
Yeah, there is a very dark humor to a lot of the stuff. And if you start looking at the cards, a lot of the cards, there's spoilers up on Mythic Spoiler. What's the word? There's a better word than spoiler, because they're not really spoilers.
Preview?
They're
Reveal.
Reveals. Yeah.
Reveal.
So a lot of the cards, these are, Wizards has been leaning into the fact that people are just ravenous for any information about the
And that
new
was 3
set.
sets ago?
Ravnica.
Oh, right, sorry.
Ravnica. So people are just so hungry for this. They are having a scheduled early release as opposed to people banging down the doors and stealing stuff. So you can see a lot of these cards.
You paint magic pictures in such a positive light. Well, before they riot.
Yeah. The fans, they're just very excited.
No, I'm
Very
actually
excited about
I'm
this
excited
stuff.
to see Wizards' take on fairy tales. I really am.
Yes, I am also.
I think that they've done a great job with everything else that they've borrowed from in the last 30 years or whatever.
Yeah, and they're really managing to put their own special spin on it. One of the most exciting things of the cards that have come out so far is the adventure mechanic. So they've done cards before that are split cards that have multiple things they can do, and now they're set up thematically like a storybook. So they have a frame on them, very cool art. They're sorceries, instants, and also creatures. And you can cast the sorcery part of it, goes into exile, and then you can get the creature back from it. So it's a new twist on casting multiple things from one card, which is huge for Magic because the value of a single card is a lot. And now basically doubling the amount of things that card can do, it's really exciting to see them play with it. Pushed, like a lot of these cards seem very powerful, so it'll be interesting to see how they turn out in play. Like the bears card. There's some very powerful ones.
Well, so speaking of bears, I think
Yeah.
that's a really good example for where I think they're being really clever with the humor on this.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's just, as an exercise,
Yeah.
let's see how quickly anybody who's watching can guess which fairy tale character we're talking about.
All right.
Okay, so human berserker
Yes, human berserker
makes bears,
makes bears.
called a flaxen intruder,
Flaxen intruder.
Flaxen and True.
would be Goldilocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
So,
Or
like,
Debbie does Chicago.
sure, both of those.
Oh,
So I think that
Bears, guys.
yeah, the bears. So I think that's going to be where a lot of the humor comes from,
Yeah.
of like having these fairy tale things and then figuring out how you would plug them into the mechanics of Magic,
Yeah.
which is very cute.
And there's also a love-struck beast in there. There's a beanstalk giant, a gilded goose. There's a new mechanic, it's the food tokens.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff produces food tokens now, which you can crack to gain life. And some of the stuff, including the gilded goose, play around with these new. So this is a completely new concept. Like in the past, they had clues, Eldrazi's that you could crack, like stuff you could draw cards, stuff you can get mana from. So they haven't had one before that has a life gain to it. So that's pretty cool as well.
But yeah, it's definitely, I see this is, they're tapping into a very, very big market. There's people who just buy things because it is fairy tale. And a lot of things are like, oh no, I don't want to play Magic because that's too serious of a card game.
Yeah.
They can see this, even though like the stylized isn't like super cartoony, it's cartoony enough to like introduce the game of Magic to new audiences.
That does bring up a really interesting
Isn't that what
point to me.
Pokemon is for?
Well, yeah, but if you want Magic
Yeah.
wants to do like birth to death basically. But I think the
Yes.
idea of the cartoony, less serious thing is an interesting thing to keep in mind too.
Yes.
Because I'm very much of the opinion that for any like real big like IP or big product or thing to really succeed in a wide scale, it can't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And how long has it been since Magic has had a set that is explicitly humorous in some way? Because like
16
there's
years?
Unglued,
20?
there's weird, like they've had weird sets that come out every so often.
Unglued
was
was a
great.
couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I think every couple of years, Magic probably needs to have some sort of like don't worry about it kind of
Like
set.
free
Yeah.
candy. Well, that's a horrible thing to say.
There. Well, it's funny that you mentioned Unglued because Unglued, they've had a little bit of fairy tale-esque things going on in there. So it's like nothing is wasted, nothing is lost, right? They saw
Yeah.
that. They're like, what if we put this into a real Magic set?
No, I think they just came off of a weekend binger of Shrek.
They're-
Oh.
So, but there's other Magic news, right?
Yeah. So all the stuff about Throne of Eldraine is very exciting. Definitely check it out. There's lots of information out there. The other crazy thing that came out is they've just data dumped like the next year plus.
All of
like,
2020.
all of 2020. So before, like even announcing Throne of Eldraine, that was like very close to the belts, you know, it was a couple of months before. And now all of a sudden it's just like, and here is just everything that you have to look forward to, which is not usually how they do stuff, but sure, we'll take all that information.
As an aside, I'm very amused that Paximo in chat is basically going off on a tear of other ways to circumspectly describe fairy tale characters with Magic mechanics.
She is very, very good at that.
Nice. I can't wait to. I want
wanna
to see that
see.
actually. Yeah.
I think so far it's a narcoleptic sorceress who suffers from select hirsutism,
Yeah.
Sleeping Beauty.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
So,
All right.
or Rapunzel, I think somebody else is saying.
Oh, yeah, for
so, we were-
Q1 returning to Theros with Theros Beyond Death. We're gonna have a spoiler here, so if you are worried about being spoiled about the Magic story, close your ears. Cover
Or
your
just fast
ears.
forward a couple of. Oh,
No,
wait,
wait,
no, it's
we're live.
God.
So
Ah.
yeah, rescuing Gideon, who was killed in War of the Spark. You may have noticed the card Gideon's Sacrifice. That was about Gideon sacrificing himself to save Liliana.
It'll be in the novel adaptation. Don't worry.
Yeah, it is.
it was in the trailer too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to.
Not
Well, it was
really.
it was teased in the trailer.
Teased. Yeah, maybe he was fine. Maybe someone came with a bandage.
It's
and
just a flesh
like-
wound.
Yeah, it's just a flesh wound. So potentially rescuing Gideon or Elspeth Tyrell, fatally wounded in Journey into Nyx. So bringing some characters back. No one is ever really dead. Q2 goes to a new plane. Ikoiria, which will never before hence be pronounced correctly. It'll be like the Ravinica all over again, which is fine. It's okay to pronounce
Ikoria.
fantasy words
Incorrectly.
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you can pronounce them incorrectly.
No, you just have to cough before you.
Yeah.
If they don't have a if they don't have a way that if they write it down without putting like how it's pronounced in there,
pronunciation.
that you can say it however the hell you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so this is going to be Lair of the Behemoths, a plane of beasts where players make their own monsters. That's something exciting
This
to look forward
basically
to.
sounds like Magic Kaiju.
Magic Kaiju, yeah.
From the kind of description that, like, the very brief note I saw from Rosewater is this is a whole new mechanic. Players are going to be able to create their own monsters.
Yeah.
So I'm immediately imagining like Pacific Rim, the Magic expansion.
Right.
We'll see if it turns out
This
that
is
way.
If we also get
Also-
Jaegers, I'll be in.
Yeah, you have to have Jaegers if you're going to.
Also tying back to the Unglued set, they had the split cards with like the cat and the donkey, and you would like put them together to make a new creature. So
Oh, there's
It's a cat ass.
it's a cat and a donkey. There just needs to be one more. It's going to be a triple set. Because cat, donkey,
The
and ogre.
three.
and then an ogre, and then we're back to Shrek.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, it's inescapable.
That's
the
why you're my
people-
favorite. Okay.
People have noted that Ikoria is very similar to Kiora, who is one of the planeswalkers that was featured in War of the Spark.
Oh, yeah, they both have a
could
K
be
in their name.
I know, and all of the letters. All
They
of
have
the
letters.
are
All
in
of the
there.
all of them?
letters?
Yes, Kiora, Ikoria.
Kioria has 3 I's in her name.
Kiora.
Kioria.
They're silent eyes. Then Q3 is going to be Core 2021. So they are keeping on with the core sets. They've gone back and forth over the year, but there is going to be a core set 2021. And then Q4, Zendikar Rising. The Eldrazi are defeated.
I have to say, I had an emotional roller coaster when I saw this because I was like, Zendikar, more Eldrazi,
Yeah.
and then they're like, nope.
Yeah.
Which ones were the Eldrazi?
The Eldrazi are the weird,
Colorless,
colorless creatures that like
devoid.
eat all life or
Yep,
something like
maybe I
that.
remember them.
Yeah.
I really like them from a distance. Like I don't really play a ton of Magic, but I love them as like, I just love examples of Lovecraftian creatures that don't just regurgitate stuff from the existing mythos.
Yeah.
So like, unknowable weird monsters that are beyond ken that aren't just Cthulhu and his pals. I'm a real big fan of.
Yeah.
So they were a neat kind of take on that.
But this is great. It means the rest.
Sorry, I just turned over to this, and I'm like, what?
It was the sound effect. It was that really
good.
made it for me.
like, what is she drinking? Oh no, she's doing Cthulhu.
What is she drinking?
Cthulhu
Your
sound.
brain.
Right.
But this is great because all the Zendikarians are going to be able to go forth and prosper. They're going to be able
Zendikarians,
to.
Zendikarians, Zendikarites. Do we
Zendik-
really know what they?
Zendikish.
Zendikar.
Zendikai. All the Zendikai are going to go forth and prosper and put all their non-tainted babies infesting across their plane.
Man, isn't
Wow.
that what just everybody wants out of life?
Non-tainted
Non-tainted babies.
infesting your planes.
Yeah, you know what? That sounds pretty solid.
So,
There are
we
too
have-
many
we have-
babies on this plane. I hope they're not infested.
We have that to look forward to
They
for
all
Magic.
are. Kids
Yeah.
are walking germs.
I could have gotten through that a lot faster without all the Shrek.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Would it
We
have
literally
been,
could not help
would it
ourselves.
have been half as much fun?
I like looking
I
at
like
all the
Shrek.
All that
I don't
glitters
have
is
anything
gold.
against- Oh, that was the thing. Oh, I almost forgot.
Smash Mouth reference.
That was that was
You
the-
dork.
We got this far without one.
That was the only complaint about the Throne of Eldraine trailer.
It didn't use Smash Mouth?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
The song.
wait, did it not?
No, it
No.
used the Love Suddenly Appears.
I'm pretty sure they would have got just straight up sued by Disney at
Yeah,
that
they
point, or
would.
DreamWorks.
DreamWorks.
well,
Yeah.
they just licensed it from Smash Mouth.
Maybe they just use a different Smash Mouth
I
song.
guess I imprinted into
Like
my
Walking
brain
on the Sun or something.
that kind
Is-
of thing.
I mean, they've got different names, but they're basically all the same song.
Oh,
but
no
right.
one would have noticed.
Moving
Speaking
on.
about Cthulhu-esque things and stuff that you have to think about, guess what? 5th edition. I was going to
Keep
segue
going.
better, but I didn't think about it very well. So, Unearthed Arcana, if you guys don't know what it is basically a let's test the waters public playset test.
So if you're not familiar with
Yes.
it, it's stuff that Wizards puts out on their website. You kind of
On
have to
their
look for a
website.
little bit
Yeah.
more actively.
Yes.
For Dungeons and Dragons.
For Dungeons & Dragons, this is specifically for 5th edition. They just basically released a couple of things. If you like playing Sorcerers and Warlocks, you're going to be really excited about this.
Anybody who likes kicking butt likes playing Sorcerers and Warlocks in 5th edition.
Warlocks,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah,
will.
Warlocks are.
They're-
Oh, we're all about the demonic psionic packs.
Look, no, I chose
I
a
no longer need a
celestial
long
We know you did.
warlock. I'm a little bummed because seeing this, I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to do this one instead.
But
Oh,
you-
wanna tell us
I was
about
gonna be
this?
like,
But now you get to do
why
it.
are you bummed? I gotta tell you all this stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm bummed that I'm celestial and not.
Oh, all the other stuff. So one of the a little extra, like I'll go ahead and kick you a little pebble. Mine, a sliver, is going to be a new spell that they have. All it does is basically it's a range. Psionic attack
Nailed
that or
Nailed
cantrip
it.
that also lowers your target saves. So that's one of the things you can test see with something
Ego
in
weapon.
mind. And silver. But another cool thing is that there is a another otherworldly Patreon, the Lurker in the Deep,
Yeah.
which is basically you make a pact with Cthulhu-esque gods.
So you said Otherworldly Patreon.
Yes.
Which I love because now I have the image of the Adventurers Guild not doing very well and everyone having to run a Patreon and a GoFundMe and an Indiegogo to get their adventures out in the dungeon.
Do you support madness?
Yeah.
Go to Cthulhu's Patreon.
There's, well, they already had.
That would be a fantastic game.
Yeah.
In the player's handbook, they had a Cthulhu-esque one.
Yes.
But this one is specifically like your patron can be a kraken.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
kraken
I
or
want my patron
water.
to be
This seems more like Dagon than Cthulhu.
I just
wanna-
I guess Cthulhu's in there.
Can I do Aquaman?
Yes.
Yes.
As your
could.
patron?
Yeah.
As long as
it's
it's
an
like
underwater
fine.
aberrant creature. I
Yep.
mean,
You get to
Undersea behemoth. I think they're going for if you make like Aquaman like slapped him with ugly, then you could probably play him as a.
How could you
Are you
possibly-
saying? Are you buying into the fact that beautiful people have to be good? This is the patron that will prove the opposite.
Aquaman.
But yes,
Yes.
so you basically some
The
kind
Momoa
of
Aquaman.
like
Yeah, no, the other one's.
water elemental seething.
There was definitely a
Can I-
Macarena there too.
Can I have the SpongeBob SquarePants
In other news,
version
we-
of
Wow.
Aquaman?
We are on a roll this week of
Great.
not staying on topic.
No,
So
no.
there's a new patron that is much more like outsidery,
Outsidery.
for warlocks. But then sorcerer seems to be where the meat is at.
Oh yes,
Oh, yeah.
sorcerer. So if you don't want to hear, so the sorcerer stuff, we now have a sorcerer's origin new thing that's called Aberranth Mine, and basically people have been waiting a long time for 5th edition to have their psionics category, and instead of it being a separate class, it is a subclass that people can sign up into. Basically, what it does is give everyone a new list of spells. That's what you get. So if you like playing a sorcerer, sorcerers always have this like amount of spells that you know, unlike warlocks who are like, I just need a spell, like need to just.
I got all sorts of great
Wizards.
stuff.
What I
Wizards,
thought
sorry,
was
wizards.
what I thought was cool about it is it's of all of the sorceress origins you can choose from. This is the only one that gives you an extra spell.
Yes, this is
Oh,
the
okay.
only
It's the
one.
first one and only one that has ever given you an extra spell in D&D. So that's kind of cool in and of itself.
Yes. But I mean, if you go ahead and like pay attention to Mike Mercer or Merle's,
Merle's,
sorry,
yeah.
Mike Merle's Twitter feed, he was discussing a lot of ways to introduce psionics, because usually when it is introduced in a 5th or any D&D setting, it's very broken and it doesn't work with the rest of the rule set that other characters have. I think this is not a popular opinion. I feel like adding it as a subclass makes it a little bit easier to ease into those rules.
Well, so I mean, my counter argument is
Yeah.
this is going to be perfectly well. This is not going to be any less balanced with the rest of the system than the current rules are, because it's not different rules.
Right. It's not going to be anything different.
Which,
So, did they not have any other spells?
well, no, like
or-
maybe there'll be some new spells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be spells. Like
Right,
those are
yes.
large. Like
They're just going to be
the-
spells that
the
act more
structure
like
for-
cleric
It's
spells than
flavor.
wizard spells.
The,
in
the
that
structure
particular
for
case.
that is there. So if it's new spells, if it's like a new subclass feature, like those are not always perfect. You know, like people complain about the Ranger, for example, but like it's not fundamentally gonna destroy the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think I played a Mystic at one point, and yeah, basically ruined the game.
So if they
But-
haven't found a way to do psionics right in D&D yet, why are they adding them now?
Well, but they're not. They're playtesting.
Right. But that's adding.
Well, I mean, okay.
It's a public playtest. It's not like
It's because the demand for it. There's
So what is it about psionics that people want? Like, what is the difference?
So
like
the-
mind control?
Yeah, so
like,
the thing is that like if you kind of look, or my feeling is that there's a group of people who just love psionics. Maybe that's because they came from like a sci-fi realm where psionics is like how we justify magic or whatever. But like there's a place that and there's a place in fantasy, I think, for another style of magic that feels different from normal magic, which is why
Feels more like a mutant superpower as opposed to magic.
Why I'm not
spell that you
super happy with this implementation of it, because I feel like it will allow things called psionics in there. You can, you'll have some cool feats, you'll have some cool class features. It'll be neat. Like, I'm not saying it's not gonna be fun to play those classes.
Yeah.
But I just feel that it's not gonna be fundamentally different from playing a different sorcerer. So to my mind, then why? Like, what is the benefit of calling it psionic, other than now you can have psionics to answer that crowd of people who are like, well, where's my psionics? So, I'm of the opinion that if you're gonna make it psionics, make it different.
Make it completely
Yeah, like have it be a different thing.
But every time they've done that, it's failed miserably.
Like that's,
Miserably.
Not necessarily.
People bought the book, but you weren't ever allowed to play anything out
Well,
of
I mean,
it.
like, 4th edition had psionics that were perfect.
Fourth edition sucks out loud.
No, it's great.
Ooh, fight.
This is a topic for another discussion.
I feel like 4th edition is my World of Warcraft movie.
Yeah, man, you want to die on that hill, you go right ahead. You'll be there with the other 3 12-year-olds that played it.
But in other news, I mean,
Yeah.
like the argument against that, or like just because previous psionic rules have failed, doesn't mean that psionics can't work. Because
I agree.
That argument would then suggest that there is no rule or rules, like let's say module, that can be added to D&D, and that is a statement that I
Don't like.
cannot imagine
I can't
anybody
even agree
really
with that.
supporting.
They did experiment a couple of times before with introducing different mechanics. There was one that was a point system to psionics. Yeah, and that one received some scathing reviews because they're like, it's too different, these rules, I can't, they're point.
Yeah, but to me,
Also,
like,
you could
that's
just pump
exactly
points
what I
into
want.
stuff and kill everything in one
I
shot.
want it to be different. Like, that's the whole point. It should, like, if you're going to introduce a new thing and call it psionics, then do that. Like, make it different. That's the point of these rules to me.
And I think
well, it's just tough, right? Getting something else into Dungeons and Dragons, and especially like, do you put it? Does it eventually become part of the player's handbook? Is it something that increasing the complexity of the base game, making it harder for new players to get into?
All of those are reasonable questions, but I'm just very resistant to the idea that everything has to be in the player's handbook. Everything has to be accessible. Like it's okay to have the player's handbook, and then have some optional rules people play with if they want.
Yes.
That's all right. That's fine.
Yeah.
But people don't like reading. So much effort. I think, though, the reason why they are trying to introduce this is because they're also trying to push this old system called Dark Sun.
And that's where my question was leading.
I mean, we'll see. Like, I wouldn't say that Wizards is trying to push Dark Sun, because I'm pretty sure Wizards does not need to stoke that fire anymore.
Okay.
The Dark Sun fan community will come out of the woodwork.
If you guys
or
don't know what
the holes in the desert they have dug for themselves.
Yeah.
Tell me about Dark Sun.
So Dark Sun, if you can't tell by the name, is a pretty much grim, dark desert apocalypse where magic sucks up life, there are no gods, and everybody hates wizards and sorcerers.
Well, they're god kings now, right? Isn't that the
they're
whole
god
idea?
kings.
Sorcerer kings.
Yeah, they're sorcerer kings, and water is super, super precious. You're in the desert.
All your stuff's made of wood.
Bones.
Or
Yeah,
bone.
I love Dark Sun for many
Yes.
reasons. Partly because it was a very divergent path for D&D to take. The fact that Eberron has finally gotten a hardcover campaign setting to come out makes me extremely happy or optimistic that soon we'll see some similar releases for other classic settings. And if this is the first step to that, great. I mean, I would rather have what I consider possibly a kind of a boring or bland psionic system and then get Dark Sun than not have Dark Sun at all.
One of the only actual redeeming features for Dark Sun for me was the fact that they included psionics as kind of the wild ability, as it's an unknown factor in the world and it can show up anywhere.
And here's my ridiculous hot take. Dark Sun would have been better without psionics.
You're probably not wrong, but like I said, that was like the one cool thing about it,
But what
as
about-
opposed to all of the really crappy things about it. And I don't mean as a player, because it's fun to play.
Yeah.
Dark Sun you started at 3rd level, so adventures were generally much more high-powered.
And you were supposed to have 3 characters at 3rd level because they were all going to die.
Because they were all
You needed to have a stable to replace them.
Yeah, it was which I hated. I
Yeah,
hate that. I think that's the dumbest thing ever. Love your character, treat them well, and they can live. it was so grimdark all the way through. Like, there is no redeeming features about this world. Nothing.
You need a balance, right?
Nothing good ever happens here.
You
Well,
could
I mean,
just-
theoretically, the players could be that good.
Right, but
Yeah.
I mean, nobody. Who did that?
Nobody
Did
actually
you play
did
that campaign where you went and saved the world?
I co-wrote it because I was involved in the Ashes of Athos campaign for 4th edition.
Oh, yes, I've heard about that.
It was very good.
Yeah?
Yep. I hear there's people who are translating to 5th, so maybe you could not sully yourself and go experience it.
All right. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's keep it moving here, folks. We still got a lot of stuff to cover.
Yes.
Anything else about Unearthed Arcana?
No, just like a lot of things that you might just want to try to play test, see if it works, and if it doesn't, you can go ahead and submit. Hey,
Yeah.
And if
I hate
Along with
it.
any of the other playtest classes that they have available on Unearthed
Yes.
Arcana. It's a great resource. If you
Yeah.
haven't checked it out yet and you're a D&D player, I highly suggest that you do.
If you like playing with things, like that's the thing I love about it. Like I love having optional things.
Yeah.
That's
and I
all.
really like Wizards doing that. And I think didn't D&D Beyond announce that our Unearthed Arcana stuff moving forward would be supported in D&D Beyond?
I think so.
So I
I
think
did hear something about
these
that.
rules will be available in D&D Beyond before too long if they're not
Okay.
already.
Yeah, I mean that's where we got Artificers from.
Right.
From
Was from Unearthed Arcana, and they're a good
And
class.
now they're going to they've grown up and they've graduated and they're going to be a real
now they're
life
in
class.
real live print.
But we have one more headline.
All right, one more headline. So, a ban for Magic the Gathering, a ban announcement, I should say, leads to record sales on TCGplayer. So this doesn't usually happen, or at least not to this extent. So TCGplayer sellers sold 250,000 cards on August 26th.
Oh wow.
That's a lot.
And that was the day
That's
they
a lot of
announced a
cards.
ban on particular cards?
Or an unban, I think.
Yeah, so the kind of known ban was Hogak. There was the one card in that deck that was banned, the Undervine Bridge, I forget the exact name of it, but didn't fix the problem, so Hogak had to be banned because it was just like, the deck that it was in after the first ban got better. So they had to ban. They was like, we can't do Hogak anymore. So everyone kind of knew that was going to happen. No one was really sad. They're like, yeah, this is just ridiculous. However, they also unbanned the Stoneforge Mystic from Modern, and like that is what really drove everybody to be crazy because it's not just a single card. It allows an entire new deck to become viable in Modern, and this is where a lot of the speculation was happening on the cards. So this is the Stoneblade deck. It's a legacy deck that didn't really have a strong version in Modern, and now it will just be playable in Modern. And Modern is a much more played format than Legacy. Like there's like hundreds of thousands of people playing this format, and now they can play this really cool deck because this card is unbanned. And so people, a lot of them, some of them just wanting to get into the deck, but a lot of it just market speculation. And TCGplayer leaned into this. I don't know if they're like behind the scenes shenanigans knowing about this thing was going to be unbanned, but before the announcement, they ran a promotion, get an 8% bonus if any of the cards were banned, because everyone knew that Hogak was going to be banned.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have a ban, they have windows for it, so they'll say like, oh, our banning announcement is coming, and then nothing is banned. So they have the regular check-in to be like, yeah, we've seen the format, we say that it's healthy. So sometimes nothing is announced, but because something was announced, TCGplayer just like raked in all of the money from all of those sales.
So this is people who
And they bought the Atlanta
were,
Falcons.
Yes.
This is the people who were
that
selling
up.
cards that were banned
Yeah.
Yes.
and buying cards that were unbanned. So
But it wasn't even, it was the whole deck. Like that's what really drove it
well,
crazy.
I mean, that sounds to me the interesting point of just how the ripple effect
Yeah.
of individual cards in Magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least in competitive Magic.
Yeah.
I think of just, this card is unbanned, and thus this whole kind of like tree of possibilities opens up, whereas this other card is banned, just shutting off this whole downstream effect.
Yeah. And my guess, I didn't look at the interesting thing about the list, it was all people, it was like it wasn't a flooding, like a dumping thing. My guess would be people kind of knowing that this was coming up, so probably like filtering out of those more expensive cards that were only for the deck, because all of the most traded or most bought and sold cards were for this new deck. So people, and the thing about the metas and the decks, like everyone knows what the best deck is. Like there's lists, there's websites where it's like, this is the best deck, with some like minor variants, but most of the cards are on there. So you can just have that list like on a wait list and then like buy. It's also interesting because I don't think the cards adjust in real time. So it's not exactly a stock market. You know, it's not like I bought it at 40 and like 10 minutes later, now it's at 50. So the people were buying it on that day. Because,
Well, it's not a modern stock market.
Yeah.
And I wonder how quickly the stock market used to be updated before there were computers.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder.
I wonder if it's similar to that now.
Is it? Yeah, mostly
Just once a
yelling.
week, a guy comes in and flips the numbers on the board. Dials down. Might have rain
Oh
this
man,
week.
now
I think it's just like a lot of paper and people screaming in one room.
now I
Yeah.
just want to imagine like the Magic stock market where it's just a room of a bunch of nerds screaming,
Yeah.
and there's like different indices of different kinds of Magic cards. Like
They're all color
red,
coordinated.
Yeah, like the red index is up 1.2% today, and while black is down 10.
And then you got these cards
I got a
falling
hot
from
tip.
the sky.
Buy all the Vexing Devils.
oh boy.
And just another
I kinda like that.
point for this to say exactly how much it is, the traffic
great
was
game.
double Black Friday. So Black Friday is presumably their biggest day of the year, and this
Oh.
is double that.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
It has come to be known as Double Black Sunday.
Double points.
So I think the moral of the lesson here is people like Magic and buying Magic cards.
yeah.
Yes.
But they treat it like
Weird.
like a stock market. Like, it's weird. Most of these people...
It's commodities exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of these people aren't necessarily buying it because they want to play the deck. They think the price will go up, and people do treat it. I've seen this before.
Do you think most though? 'Kay, I'm real curious how many people will speculate and will do it as a speculative market, as
Yeah.
opposed to also playing. You know what I mean?
Well, I think for the first day buy, like jumping on it right then before the price comes up, like those are the speculators. Like the people who are like, oh, this is a cool, they're not as, they don't have as much skin in the game, right? The people who want to make money off of it, they're there like banging down the doors to grab these cards. Whereas
This
the
game
people-
does sound fun.
Yeah.
Well,
the
I
people
mean,
who actually want to play it are kind of probably in there as well. you
Why
know?
do we never hear about them?
I
Just wanna
worry-
play the game.
I worry though about a bubble being created. You
Oh,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Like and then the aftermath of bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
you
Well,
know?
the Magic has gone through that more than most games has, where
Yes.
they've done that bubble and they had to
and
burst it themselves.
I think Wizards is particularly sensitive to that. I think they've done
Yeah.
a really good job.
Dungeons
over
and
the
Dragons
past-
has done it.
Yeah, I think they've done a really good job over the past several years of being mindful of that bubble and trying to avoid it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't really think it's a great thing to have it be treated in this way, because I think it's a lot. Because kids can do it, right? There's no age limit on who can be buying these cards and speculating on them, and people, they'll be playing the market just like they play the stock market. People can lose a lot of money doing that.
So are you saying that it appeals to the gambler?
Yeah,
Like
It does.
it does.
industry.
Yeah.
I mean, if a kid can get a college tuition off of buying Magic cards, you know, all
Yeah, or
Yeah.
if they can
A
lose
kid
all their
can
money.
lose their parents'
Yeah.
house over
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
Magic
By
card.
the same
Yeah.
token, the myth that you can pay your college tuition with the Magic cards you happen to have is real appealing and motivating.
Yeah.
It's almost like America really just wants to get rich.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like we're full of capitalists.
Capitalism. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, well, I'll explain it to you after the show.
And that is all I have to say about Magic.
well, I mean, on
Or-
the what's for competitive Magic, like, do you think
Yeah.
this is all driven by competitive Magic? Because, like, in a casual Magic game, you could just proxy in whatever you wanted. You could print something out, throw it in a sleeve, and play. In competitive Magic, you obviously can't do that. So, like, I'm curious if were people allowed to proxy in competitive Magic, do you think there'd be anywhere near this kind of speculation at all? Like, is it just? But that's the weird thing is that if it's all resting on competitive people using it,
Yeah.
it seems like a really unstable foundation for speculation.
Right. Yeah.
And it's maybe
And
a
the
bubble,
meta shifts
but
and-
it doesn't seem like that would support a whole industry. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I get that.
Seems weird.
It doesn't. It's a secondary industry to the main industry.
Yeah, no, but like people will speculate on commodities because
Right.
those commodities are useful somewhere, or they're agreed on value or something. Like they end up going somewhere. So where do these cards go?
Yeah.
Because if I'm just playing with my friends, we obviously don't really have to go buy these expensive cards.
No.
But people still do.
Don't
I don't.
I mean,
I think
it's
Like,
weird.
everybody-
don't you? Who proxies in cards?
Yeah, the weird.
I don't know
because-
anybody
the
who
thing
does
is-
it on the regular.
Yeah, but you can. Like that's an
Yeah, but
interesting
people don't,
thing in
which
my
is
mind
weird.
is like you
Yeah.
can. Like it's with
Because it's cheating.
it's
frowned
not.
upon.
But it's
You didn't pull that card.
Yeah.
That's part of the game. Pulling
Yeah.
the cards is part of the game.
That's
Yeah.
that is so weird to me.
That's
Yeah.
the gambling
But-
aspect. That's the
Yeah,
part that's
you
addictive.
You
Yeah,
have to
the
get
mythos that's been built up around it,
It's
and
a-
something that Wizards has fostered.
It's
Man,
like,
opening
gosh
up
darn-
booster packs is
No, oh yeah, opening
It's
up booster
like
packs
those
is
gosh
fun.
It's
darn
a
fake
nearly
shinies
orgasmic
that you
experience
get
for
at
some people.
Pokemon, not mad because I traded my shiny Mewtwo was as dumb as a kid and I didn't realize that the shiny Mewtwo was special because I wanted a Ponyta, but that's different.
Somebody seems like they might have some things to work through. But it seems really weird to me. Like, why wouldn't you proxy?
But-
If you want to try the deck, why wouldn't you proxy?
But you have to get the official cards.
But why? If you're
Because
playing with your friends,
it's not
why?
official.
Because
So?
your friends all put the money in, and if you're the person who's there, like being the cheapskate, then there's all sorts of like bizarre social dynamics.
That's me. You know what I
wrapped up in
did?
this.
Because I was the cheapskate, I just didn't play Magic with them. Because I wasn't going to proxy in cards. Because then you get like the guy you play with, like, oh, I noticed it's made of cardboard paper there. They just wrote on it. Like, it's like, yeah, thank you for pointing out
it's
that I'm
black and
poor once
white.
again. I love that our relationship is about you telling me how poor I am.
I feel like there's a lot more going on here than
Oh, yeah.
proxying. There's a whole.
There's
anyway.
a whole,
Yeah.
you just open up
Yeah.
a cave.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't buy cheap toilet paper either. Okay.
It does make
And
a
it comes back to
difference. It does make a difference.
It does.
All right,
You heard it here first, folks.
But spend that extra $1 for nicer toilet paper.
moving
Wow.
on.
Wow.
Wait, come
The
on.
hottest of tips this week. Christian, bundles.
Moving on to bundles.
Bundles
And
of toilet paper.
The bundles
I'm
of toilet
the
paper.
cat herder here today.
Yeah, no,
are, good
you
job.
really are
I'm
doing a
looking
great
at the
job with
clock
it,
over
though.
here.
That's why you sit in the middle.
Yeah, because I'm
what's
just
going on?
like, and then.
And then what happened? So, bundles this week. We've got two of them. One by Humble Bundle, which is an RPG bundle that is completely digital,
Yes.
which you may have heard of before. It's like they take regular games and they put them on your TV. It's pretty neat. You can do it at home.
Vidya
Wow.
games.
Vidya games, as they're called.
Vidya.
These Vidya games being mostly based on RPGs and, well, RPGs. So, why this is cool. The Humble Bundle this week is you're getting $145 worth of video games for $15. You don't even care what games they are now because you're like, what? $15 for $145? That's a tenth of the price. But it's not.
Value.
It's a little bit more than that. So, for you get Deep Sky Derelict's Immortal Planet Hive Swap. I don't know anything about that game. It's $1, so who cares?
Yeah.
Moving on, Tyranny,
Tyranny.
and Pillars of Eternity.
Yes. Both games.
Both games.
Wait,
It's
Just buy it for that.
And
Yeah.
and another game that I was going to have you talk about called Cat Quest.
look, the Kickstarters today, spoiler alert, are not super adorable. So
No.
this is your daily or your
This is your-
weekly dose of adorability.
So this is Emma approved.
Yes.
This is Emma approved. It's a of course action adventure RPG looting game that goes along. But Pillars of Eternity is very exciting. It's the same people that designed Baldur's Gate.
Yep.
So obviously you're gonna get a real tabletop RPG experience, or at least it's
Tyranny
close
is
to
the
one.
same style game, but you play
But
a
you can
villain.
be a
play
bad
the bad
guy.
guy.
And you've played
the
that
bad
one.
guys win, and it's great, and then you get to make great, horrible decisions on whether or not to kill this group of people or that group of people because they don't understand your role. That's how you play that.
They'll
Definitely
learn.
some stuff to work
They'll
through.
learn fast enough. Also included is Borderlands 1, which if you haven't played, just go play it already. It's been out for a long time. Borderlands 3 is coming out in like
Yep.
a minute and a half.
Yeah.
That's
It
what
is.
that's what I took my vacation for.
Yeah, as well you should. That's going
Yeah.
to be amazing.
Yep.
See where it all started. Borderlands 1 is a great game and really tells you what the entire series is all about. Obviously, the major attraction here is the two Obsidian games because those guys make great games. That's all they do. They just make awesome games all the time. It's their whole job, and they do it well.
And
So-
you noted with the charity that it's benefiting?
Yes, it's Charity Water, which is basically providing other areas like in areas that can't get clean resources of water. So, because there's people that have to walk like 20 miles just to get a bucket
That's right.
of
The
water.
people of Michigan need you, so go
I
ahead and
was about
buy
to
this
say.
Humble Bundle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, not in the U.S. I think.
Too
I think
soon?
it's- Yeah.
Is that too soon?
Nah, I mean it's good that we're aware that water can apparently light up blue
There. On fire.
on
Yeah.
fire.
Which is weird since it's supposed to put out fire.
Yeah, it's supposed to put out fire, but it
Maybe we've been
fire.
using the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Maybe trucks full of baking soda is the way to go. Moving on, the bundle of holding this week is benefiting Mermaids UK,
Yes.
which rescues mermaids from. Nope, that's
Nope,
not it.
nope,
I'm
nope.
hearing from the back. That's not what this charity is about at all.
It's for
We're getting notes.
Yeah.
Not
safe
actually, yeah.
spaces for kids who are in the trans community. Basically, a lot of them have been kicked out of their homes and basically treated like they have mental issues, which is not the case. They just need to discover what true form their body they want it to be. Yep. So that's what it
That
benefits.
benefits Mermaids UK. What it includes is everything from UFO press involving Legacy. Legacy is a great powered by the apocalypse, or in this case, post-apocalypse engine, which is a fantastic RPG system.
It's one of my favorite systems.
It's absolutely one of my favorite systems. I play it weekly. So this is post-apocalyptic. You play a member of a family who has a particular job that they are helping get their faction through this horrible post-apocalyptic wasteland. You play through that character's life, and then you pick up where they left off with another family member who fulfills a different role in that community, and it just goes on and on. You're playing a legacy. I think that's why they call it that.
It makes so much sense.
What?
It's super cheap. Everything you need in the core collection is available for $10. The cool part about this bundle is for about $22, which is just slightly over double that, you get basically everything that they have ever put out for this game, which is a bunch. Different worlds. I mean, lots and lots and lots of different worlds, different post-apocalyptic scenarios, different factions, different family members, different playbooks that you can choose from, and all of it for $22. So
Christian,
pick that up right now.
Hearing you talk about a post-apocalyptic game system really makes me feel like we could play Rift.
We almost went.
I almost went the whole episode without mentioning Rifts, but I can't.
You didn't have to do it.
Guys,
Have you tried Rift?
have you tried Rifts?
Try to read.
Okay.
But I feel like we could do a different take on it with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but when you make it like,
Oh, Legacy. Rift's Legacy.
Rift Legacies.
interestingly enough, I'm working on something very similar. We'll talk about that another time. Don't worry. But it's okay to get excited. It's exciting. So that's actually it for our bundles. I have nothing else to say, which means we can move on to Kickstarters and then go fight traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, traffic.
But the first Kickstarter isn't from me this week.
No, I am temporarily kicking Derek off of the Queen
The
throne.
Queen is dead. Long live the Queen.
But yes, so fun little thing. Shovel Knight is actually getting a board game. If you don't know, Shovel Knight is a popular 2D platformer game where you are a knight who digs and shovels and kills things with shovels.
Like it's very much like truth in title.
Yeah.
What is Shovel Knight? It's a knight who has a shovel?
It has a knight. Do I need a... But basically,
Hobo with a shotgun.
What do you need?
It
There's
has
the movie.
about 1 day left. There was a little bit of confusion because they did start the Kickstarter and then had to change some of the tiers because they only had like one $70 tier and people were like, no! And so they were like, let me
Actual
change this.
representation of the reaction.
I think we can make that a reaction gif.
Yeah, so they changed a few things around, offered lower tiers, and basically
So they canceled the campaign and relaunched.
And relaunched it to be more reasonable for, of course, the gamer community does not like very expensive, big games.
Well, for the video
For the
game.
video
A segment of the gamer community does
The
not like expensive
segmented-
things.
The video gamers.
The video gamers don't like things that are $70. But for this one, it is
The miniatures gamers would pay that for one figure.
Yes, pretty much. But it is
It's expensive to import those Marines from China.
It has 1 day left, 1 to 4 players, and how the mechanic goes is like you start as like all these different colors Shovel Knights, and as you slowly go through the board, it's side scrolls. So one piece gets taken out, a new piece gets slotted in, and there's a boss battle at the end. Don't worry, you have infinite lives, so when you die, you just lose half your loot. And that leaves it for other players or it to drop into the void of the end scroll.
So it like I was.
So it
kind
sounds
of-
like it plays exactly like the video game.
It does. I'm
I was
impressed,
reading through this and at the end, whoever's the most treasure wins.
Yes.
But like otherwise, is it entirely? It sounds like it's almost entirely cooperative.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're not fighting each other in the game.
I mean, but it would be fun to just kill everybody and take care of them.
Again, there's a lot that you might need to work through.
What?
They have lots of games that do that already.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like it sounds
Have
like
you heard of capitalism?
Oh,
it
capitalism.
sounds like if you just
Kill
don't
everyone, take
compare
their loot.
notes at the end, then it's co-op,
yeah.
which is an interesting way to take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like as long as you don't try to mess the other player up, it's a hey, let's all fight to earn the most money kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, it almost makes me wonder why they made it competitive, but I guess they might need a reason to
I
do
think it
stuff
sounds
other
like-
than just boop the.
Sounds like there needed
Yeah.
to be a penalty for death.
Yeah.
Yes.
And ultimately, like if you think about video games, a lot of times, even if it's co-op, you end up with a high score at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, unless they like redesign the game so it really matters, like you get power-ups instead of gold, and then that makes it so the boss battle is easier or harder to do. That would be a very co-op kind of thing because
Yeah.
you're less likely to kill
So
people.
either you all lose or you all win, but one of you wins the most.
Yeah.
Sounds like, hey, Shovel Knight, if you want some ideas in co-op, then call us.
Experts
Yeah, clearly
in
you don't have it figured out
cooperation.
yet.
But yeah, just like I said, one day left. And so if you're interested, if you're a big fan of Shovel Knight, go ahead and buy the game. It really does play along towards that 2D side-scroller type of esque feeling.
Yeah,
Great.
this is an adaptation. This is a port.
Yeah, this is a
Almost feels
port.
like a
This is
port.
a
Best
opposite.
physical adaptation of a digital game.
Actually, that was how I read it when you first did. I was thinking about all these video games that are becoming board games, right?
That
Yeah,
would be
there's
a new
tons of them.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's the new
And TV shows
category
that
for
become board
next-
games.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Oh, are you talking about the Golden Girls?
No.
I was talking about
Golden
Dallas.
Girls. I should bring those in, actually. I got my Funkoverse.
I think we've got a lot of games we should play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you bring that one in, I
Derek's
want to
not
play
going to
it.
be in next week, so we can just play
We can just
board
come in and play
games.
games.
Gosh, we could do that. He'll never
You
know.
realize that I could just drive to, like, my vacation is me at home playing Borderlands, so I can just pause, drive here, and yell at you all.
Aw.
Yeah,
Drive, though.
but
You're
we'll
not gonna
still,
want
no,
to do
here's,
That is absolutely correct, but the threat is still there.
here's the thing. We'll still do the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll just do it while we're playing Fun.
All right, then that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
That's totally cool.
All right, you heard it here first,
All right.
folks.
It's been approved.
So the next Kickstarter to
Yes.
review has 4 days left. This is Saigon 75, so this falls in the category of historical game. This is
Historical
about apparently like that particular summer of 73 to the spring of 75, like a particular portion of the Vietnam War, and it promises to be a
The
whole.
part that we didn't participate in, amazingly.
Yeah, like I think it's they're really kind of focusing on as like a fratricidal conflict. It's kind of an interesting focus of the game, and it promises to be a full war game that you play in an hour. The rules seem pretty straightforward. They
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually plays out the same way, but it reminded me of the Academy games like Birth of America series, like War of 1812, 1775.
Yeah.
It felt like that.
Yeah.
A little more asymmetric, but similar kind of, you move your things, none of the cards, but you move your units and then you roll the dice to see who controls the territory.
Yeah, yeah.
I always think that the historical miniature wargaming thing is super creepy when it happens with wars that happened during our lifetime.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I
like-
mean, that's what you were saying
Yeah.
about having, like, these are
Like,
things
this is
that
the game
actually
that would make my
affected
dad
people.
hide under a table for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like there is that, but like again, I think we talked about this a little bit with like movies and books and stuff like that. Those topics aren't off limits for a movie to explore
Yeah.
inherently. Why would they be off limits for a game? Like people don't really bat an eye at Vietnam or World War II
Video games?
Video games.
No,
why
not at all.
why would a board game be different? In a lot of
Oh, it
senses,
wouldn't.
you
Yeah.
think that the board
It
game would
wouldn't.
be more removed, so easier for people
I feel
to
like
engage
it
with.
is
I
a
don't
little
know.
bit more removed
It is.
for video games because you're on a track and you can kind of separate yourself versus like putting yourself.
Your immersion levels start way lower.
Yeah.
But is that
Versus-
better or worse? The fact like I'm playing a game.
I think it
and not
depends on what the
really-
message of the game is.
Yeah.
Right.
So, this particular one seems to be taking a very particular slice of Vietnam history and trying to do a very accessible war game with it.
Yeah.
No
Easy to
miniatures.
learn, 1 hour to play.
No miniatures, but still very much a war game.
Very cool.
And that has 4 days left. The next one is a really kind of weird Kickstarter that I think is really going to appeal to anybody out there who's big into puzzles. Like, I sent this to Mike Selenker from Lone Shark. I think he had taken a look at it and stuff like that, because it's up his alley. Because it's a deck of cards that have apparently 24 different puzzles in that deck of cards.
Yeah.
So it seems like the art and there's just puzzles kind of hidden everywhere in the cards.
I got distracted by the flippy cards.
There's also that, yeah.
There's a lot of flippy.
A lot of the pictures have them doing like magic card tricks with them, cardistry stuff, which is real neat.
Yeah.
And I always feel like I have so many decks of cards now. I feel like
But if I ever
have
take the
to
time,
learn
You
some
should
of
learn
that.
that. Yeah.
No, man.
At least just like
Please
cool.
I've got
just
too many
do-
decks of cards. I think I'm
Okay.
required by
You
law.
just throw
All right,
it in
look.
there when you're shuffling.
let me
them,
just
it's
point
like,
the scenario out, like, because you were talking about your friend learning fushigi earlier,
that was
right?
me.
That was him over there.
In the David Bowie area.
And like, what if you're the guy who shows up to the party, everybody's sitting with their red solo cups, or you're talking about whatever sport, and dude just starts with the ball, just
That
going.
would be awesome. I would love that.
Would it though? Like, or wouldn't it
Okay.
be like,
So here's
why
what
are
happens.
you here?
The guy starts that, and then the whole party's like, "Yeah, Labyrinth was a great movie," and then we just go talk about
Talk about
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth while like dude is over
Yeah.
here with his thing,
So, hey,
reminding
look-
everyone of the Babe.
If that is the price we have
Babe
to
has the
pay
power
to
to
find out about the Babe,
I don't know. Those card flippy things are very popular on TikTok and YouTube right now. Have
And
you
if-
not seen them?
Oh yeah, no, that's great. I just don't want to see it when I'm somewhere with people. You know, like
hey, you'll change your mind
All right.
when we're somewhere with people, and then
you-
somebody crashes in the door with a gun, and we use Gambit tricks to
Yeah, that's
defeat
what I was
them.
gonna say. I was like, do you hate Gambit or something?
Yeah.
I love Gambit. I can throw a card further and more accurately than any person I know. However,
You are insulting Gambit right now. You know that. Right?
not a real person. Okay.
Totally a real person.
No.
You work it in. Anyways, puzzles.
Yes. In other news,
With all the
Another news.
stuff.
if you like decks of cards,
Yes.
which there is a huge market of just card deck collectors that I have been accused of being part of, which I
you have so
I
many.
refuse.
Which you are.
Sir, I only buy them because I want more tarot decks.
I'm just saying, it's time to admit you have a problem.
Never. That's what this whole Kickstarter section is for me not to admit that I have a problem by getting all of you to have a problem.
All right.
This is
Spreading it, so
this
it's
is
normalized.
this is a project for a deck of cards.
dice.
But if if you bought Maze of Games, or if you're a really big puzzler or that kind of stuff, this
They call them puzzlers?
Yeah.
Of
course
The
they
whole
do.
thing.
yeah,
Of course
not,
they do.
not
Is
like
it like they get it from the names of the Riddler? Like, oh, I'm gonna think of a really creative name. I'm
Yeah.
a Riddler. I ask riddles.
we'll call it a
puzzler.
puzzle as to why they call themselves puzzlers.
They could call themselves puzzleists.
Zendikar writes.
Yeah.
So this is 4 days left, and apparently they have a Facebook page where they've got a ton of puzzles
so
as well.
I wanted to look into this a little bit because with anything, I looked at it, I'm like, okay, why does it have to be a deck of cards? You know, there's a lot of stuff
I
going
think they
on
just
there.
liked decks of cards.
Yeah, I guess so.
Cards are
Decks of
nice.
cards will just sell, you know, if they're a cool deck of cards,
got
so
a
there's
nice
that as well.
texture.
But they have a very well-liked Facebook group, a page that they always do these puzzles. So you can go to the page and get a sense of the kinds of puzzles. Because if you look at they don't want to give away the puzzles, right, in the Kickstarter. So if you look there, you just like, so it's a languagey
Yeah, it looks like there's lots of symbols that are
Yeah.
symbolism, and positioning that are all in,
Yeah.
particularly the face cards.
Yeah,
It's like looking for the owl on the dollar bill. There's an owl in the corner.
But
Yeah.
the puzzling community
yeah.
is a large, passionate, and might be interested in this.
Yeah.
So what's next, Bonzo?
Oh, what's next is Merchant Cove. It has 6 days left. If you're really into like highly asymmetric
Ooh, I am.
Euro section games, like this one seems like not an intro game. This
Yes.
doesn't seem like a hey, let's just play it for a while. It's a 2 to 4 player, but with the expansion can be 5 players. Each of them you play different class of merchants that each do a unique thing. Like for example, the alchemists brews potions or marbles to match them, and when you get a set, you get potions. The captain uses a compass to basically like, and then let's discover treasure that way. You know the little.
The way a real captain works.
Yeah, yep.
All right, gang, we're setting a course for that way.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the blacksmith.
Look, game design is hard, okay? I'm just going to put that out there.
Game design is hard and needs more sound effects is the lesson I'm learning.
This is how I describe things. This is how it works. All right, blacksmith loads like basically forges and makes weapons and aloe so you can trade and such. And the
Alloy.
With
Alloy.
dice.
Sure.
With dice, so you get to make dice and such.
Yeah.
And then there's a time wizard.
Chronomancer.
Chronomancer.
Oh, I just thought that was the sound effect of doing time magic. Was
No, I was trying to figure out how to pronounce it.
How do I say that word? How do I say that word? How do I say that?
Chronomancer. So basically, your idea is that you freeze time for all the other players so you can get ahead.
I really hope they have to stand still when the Chronomancer is taking
No,
their turn.
you're sure you
everyone-
don't want to go time warp and you just do like the.
I really hope that the person can be like leaning in to do their thing and like, no, stop, wait,
freeze.
wait.
Or you get a little squeeze bottle.
Simon says stop.
You
That
just
sounds
got
like-
Chronomancer.
But so
the
yeah,
most
so
annoying thing.
so it sounds like there's all these different classes,
Yes,
and,
so there's
and
all
like
about 4 different classes.
and the components
CCR repair.
are really
intricate
Yeah,
because
like
you have to trade. You have to like get your resources.
I saw a bunch of little boats that you would, 3D boats you would put your little meeples or whatever in.
Yeah.
Ah,
your
Euro
resources
games.
in.
Yeah, and
They're
so
the adorablest.
basically what you want to do is manage your time, manage how far you go, how much you're like what products you're shipping and what will go well there. Like it's very like if you like to super gamify things and take notes of how like okay, we're in this quadrant of Europe and they're really asking for silks, so we need to get silks in this area.
Do you want to
Yeah.
engage in the exciting world of import, export, unloading, and loading?
Yes.
No, import-export we did a couple weeks ago.
Right.
so-
This is basically just being a dock worker.
Well, no, but you're
no, you are the merchant.
You're the
making
merchant.
complex negotiations.
and then you get a little. You could be the captain and get.
Placing
Right, with
your
the spinner, right?
marbles.
Dinner, and then you get marbles if you're out. You're like,
Perfectly.
I'm an alchemist. Look at my
And if you
marbles."
lose them, you play this game.
Okay, so
Yes, but
anything
that's,
else?
Nope, that's pretty much it. It's a very intricate game.
Okay.
Yeah.
With 6 days left,
6 days.
we also have Dragon Hunters.
There we go.
And this one, like, I think
Like, that
people
sounds like
need
more
to
up my
go
alley.
to this.
Kill monsters?
People need to go to this Kickstarter just to see the sculpt they have
Oh,
for their
the
dragon.
figurines are really pretty.
I mean,
Good.
that's what they're selling. Let's
Yeah,
be
yes, but
fair.
like the thing is, it shocked me seeing the sculpt that it's so dynamic and interesting of a sculpt
Yeah.
that I'm amazed nobody has done this before, or at least I haven't seen it. Because all the other like this dragon is swooping down from above and
Whoa.
breathing fire.
Yeah,
and like
in
in
like
this
an
in this kind of like
it's like in a weird.
almost like
Yeah.
helixy twist around.
Oh, nice.
And it's really, really cool. And it's so different from any other Dragon Mini I've seen that people really should just go check that out.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just sitting there resting on treasure, playing its wings out with
Yep.
one foot
It actually
slightly
is
forward
really
and its
cool.
mouth open?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, when I said that's what they're selling, I mean the game. The notes on the actual gameplay are very light.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, this is a game where you're playing as people, you're getting some treasure. Dragon. That's the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
So-
figures are really pretty.
Yeah.
Maybe
so,
you need Game Dragon.
Yeah, dragon.
yeah.
Mechanics, dragon.
So it's one of those cases where maybe you're buying the mini, and if a great game came along, even great.
Yeah.
Play the game if you feel like it, but Dragon.
Dragon.
Yeah, so apparently you are there's a couple different ways to play it. I think one of them you like probably the way people would play it mostly is
People
one
versus
person,
dragon?
Yeah, one person plays the monster, everybody else is trying to
I call
hunt the
dragon.
monster.
You but there's a kitten.
Oh,
There's
barbarian.
a kitten
Barbarian.
character you could play.
I was gonna
Barbarian.
say if we let you use
I don't believe that.
if we let you use the minis of the animals with weapons,
Oh, my cats and catacombs.
He's a
Yep.
kitten
minis?
cleric
Yep.
of the goddess of hugging
I think suddenly you get a lot more.
Yeah.
and candy.
Anyway,
You want to be the dragon.
anyway,
I don't.
If
I like to
you know,
kill the dragon.
This is something I think people should look at just for the minis.
Yeah.
Yep.
We also have Cryptic Explorers, which is a really stylishly looking, like asymmetrical like squad game. It's got 7 days left.
Yeah.
And this one kind of looks like black and white stylized art. The logo kind of reminds me of like a metal band where you almost can't read their name kind of thing. And there's like lightning going out everywhere or something like
Yeah.
that.
Armageddon.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a good
good
name.
name.
And it was all black and white.
Yeah.
Like it did make me wonder a little bit if they just didn't have like a color scanner or something, or if they like just put a black and white filter. If it literally the whole
I feel
game
like-
is black
I think
and white.
that's the style.
I feel like that
Okay.
goes and ties in with what they're going for a darker theme
Yep.
game. When I
Yeah.
was looking at
It's
it,
so metal.
It's very metal.
it's very metal. You got to play metal in the background. While
You're
left.
yeah, you're choosing one of 3 goddesses of death that you're going to oppose. I mean,
Yeah.
super metal.
You see, this should be our new categories. We have the cutest game, which also
most
has
The
metal.
most metal game.
Yeah, and the Kickstarter
Okay.
board game.
All right. I mean, like with new release rundown, we try to gauge spite levels. So during our
yeah.
Kickstarter, we need to have cutest Kickstarter and most metal
Most
Kickstarter.
metal, yeah.
Most
All
metal.
right.
Could be the same.
See, this is where we come up
Or
with
murder
award.
hobo.
This is where we come up with award categories.
Yeah.
Most historical.
What about
what if
most
it's metal
murder hobo?
kittens?
I'd go for most murder hobo.
I'm not really sure we've moved on to using that as a verb yet.
Murder hobo?
Well, we can pioneer that.
All right.
So, but this is again a very asymmetrical kind of squad combat game. Very stylish art. Goddesses of Death. Like if a vaguely metal-ish kind of board game combat experience sounds up your alley, then Cryptic Explorers is something to check out.
Cool.
And then our last Kickstarter, with 7 days left as well, is Successors. So, I mean, with a tagline of an award-winning ancient backstabbing game,
Yeah.
then I was in right off the
I
bat.
just
Unless it
kept,
comes with a really old knife, I'm not sure I want it.
I kept getting confused by the Diadochi. I couldn't get past that.
Oh,
Daidochi?
Okay, what is that?
it's
It's a game for 2 to 5 of them.
I think that's the
Presumably
name for the players.
Okay.
Is that what?
So this is apparently one of the top
Diadochi.
20
What a weird
multiplayer
word.
war games out there. And I guess it's 20 years old, so this is a new edition of it.
Yeah.
So published by Avalon Hill, GMT published it in 2008. So if you are into war games, this sounds like it's going to be a thing for you.
It's a specific war. It's a, I just Googled it.
Oh,
It's
well
a
then enlighten
specific
us.
war. The War of Diadochi, or the War of Alexander's Successors, are a series of conflicts between Alexander the Great's generals over his vast empire after he died.
It says here, actually, right on the page,
Diadochi?
Diadochi competing for control of Alexander
So
the
that
Great's
it's
empire.
actually a historical game.
So most
There you
historical?
go. Yeah.
Most
Or
historical.
have this
Mostest. It's actually mostest.
Has this
historical.
compete
Wait,
with
but
Saigon?
is this not? It has minifigures though.
So Kickstarter board game.
Historical Kickstarter board game.
Historical.
How many
Kickstarter
categories
program.
can it go into?
You know,
Apparently
they
a
don't
bunch.
have a Kickstarter board game category yet.
But so this is apparently the 4th edition of the game. Much improved components, quality, layout, presentation, all that kind of stuff.
Unlike the 4th edition of most other games.
Oh.
Brutal.
Shots fired.
Fight, fight, fight,
Fight, fight, fight, fight.
Just because you can't accept 4th edition in your heart doesn't mean that I can't.
I bought all of
There
them.
might be a rift in his heart. to
Yeah,
not
there's a rift in his
accept-
heart where 4th edition should be.
Yeah.
Riffs in D&D 4th edition would have been great. So, those are the Kickstarters to cover this week.
Yes.
I believe we are free
Oh
from
yeah,
headlines.
yeah. We are free. The
Yeah,
news is done.
Done, but-
Don't forget to stick around. We've got a new release rundown happening right after this show. We've got
Yes.
Fireside Chats with Peter on Wednesdays. We got the Brothers Murph on Mondays. You got us every Friday morning. You lucky, lucky people. We are Tabletakes presented by Gen Con. We'll see you next week. My name's Christian. I'm here with Bonsai, Emma, and Derek. Go play some games.
Play some games. Buy some games.